Welcome to episode 298 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak encouragement into the hearts of educators and get you informed and energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm sharing teacher June Link's presentation from the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Online Summit. She's talking about clocking out confidently and sharing 5 tips to get out the door at contract time. Visit truthforteachers.com for an easy-to-read, easy-to-share version of this podcast episode. Elevate your career in early child development at Erickson Institute, a trusted and respected premier graduate school. Erickson's online Master's in Early Childhood Education provides the expertise to lead initiatives that shape young minds. Balancing your life, work, and studies is made easier with this fully online program, offering part-time or full-time study options. Join a community of nationally recognized faculty and learn alongside experienced practitioners. Apply today at erickson.edu. That's ERIKSON.edu. So in 2023, I hosted the very first 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Online Summit. This is the only free event that is focused entirely on saving teachers time and helping you do your job more effectively and efficiently. The summit is back for the second year in a row, and this time I have moved it to the month of April instead of doing it during the summertime. All of our presenters are from our 40-Hour Teacher Workweek community. We've had around 60,000 teachers go through this program, and they can apply to share how they have streamlined their work through this summit. So that's what you're going to hear in today's episode is one of our presenters. I do pay our presenters because I don't believe in asking teachers to do more unpaid labor. I run this event at a pretty big expense to me, but the value that it adds to the teaching community really makes it a labor of love. You can support this work and benefit from all of the great ideas that other teachers are sharing in a couple of ways. The first is to sign up for the free live event, and the second is to share it with your colleagues and educator friends. Help us spread the word. The third way to support this work and to benefit from the summit is to purchase the Forever Access for $19. This includes the transcripts, the video recordings, note-taking guides, and more. And it helps me recover some of the costs of running this as a free event and paying our presenters. This is going to be a phenomenal event. I have it split up into an elementary summit and a secondary summit based on feedback that we got last year. And I think you're going to really love the sessions that are coming out of this because every single one of our presenters is a current K-12 classroom teacher sharing exactly what works for them. And all of the presentations are only 15 to 20 minutes. So you're really getting no fluff, no filler, just bite-sized PD basically that you can put into practice right away. You'll hear an example of one of those sessions here in this episode. This is from a teacher named June Link, and her session is called Clock Out Confidently, 5 Tips to Get Out the Door at Contract Time. June is going to share some principles and mindset shifts along with how she carved out time for a new program. So she and her colleagues were supposed to implement this new socio-emotional learning curriculum, which she liked and she was excited about, but she needed to find time to explore the curriculum, to write her lesson plans, to figure out how to integrate it into everything else she was doing. So rather than just, taking this home on weekends and doing it then, or just hoping to squeeze it in or not doing a very good job squeezing it in because she never really learned the curriculum to begin with, June really got intentional about her process. And you'll hear her share about how she estimated how long it was going to take for her to prepare to implement this new curriculum. She estimated it was going to take about 10 hours. And then she shares how she made time for those 10 hours during her contractual workday instead of taking it home to do in the evenings or weekends or staying late at school. And she shares one particular strategy, which I would classify as one of my favorite terms is quietly subversive, which was giving herself a sub day. So you know how sometimes teachers use their sick leave or their personal leave to take a day off of school in order to grade papers and catch up on work? Maybe that's not something that happens often in your area. I hope it's not. It's obviously not a good thing, though it is totally understandable why sometimes teachers feel like they need to do that. Well, June was considering it. It is a common thing that she sees other teachers in her area do. And then she asked herself, What if I used a school day for my students as if a substitute were there, so that I could get my own tasks done while on the clock? Could she give her students the same work she would give them if she had a substitute, so she could prepare for the new curriculum implementation during her paid work hours? June is going to share about that little experiment and more in her session for the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Online Summit. Listen in here.
My coworkers and I were having a great staff meeting. We were looking at some new project-based learning that we wanted to do with a cross-curricular project. We were looking at some field trips that we had coming up. Things were going really well, and we started looking at our new social-emotional learning program that we were excited to implement in our school. As the meeting went on, I started to realize, though, that with this wonderful program was going to take a lot of dedication on my part to roll it out well with my students. I got thinking, okay, if I need to give this program all of this time, probably about 10 hours, how in the world am I going to fit in yet one more thing? My name is June Lang, and I'm a graduate member of the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek. And I'm here to share with you how educators can take a radical approach to prioritization during the school week using one of the bonuses from the club called the Big Five. This is not another work smarter, not harder speech. This is about knowing that you did right by your kids when you leave at the end of the day. This is about knowing that you have the energy beyond the school day to care for the things in your personal life that truly matter. And it's also about sharing the fact that you are worthy and capable of meeting your goals. So I still have these 10 hours to fit in. And I'm thinking during this meeting, like, don't want to get another I don't want to get another sub. I've used up so much time on my family who's been out ill this year. I didn't want to lose any more of that precious time. My kids had ski races on the weekends, and we've been really having a lot of fun as a family. So I decided then and there that I am going to accomplish this goal during my normal hours. Period. This is going to happen. This is my challenge, and how can I do it? I was feeling a little stressed in this moment. So after the meeting, I went and looked at my club materials and revisited the Big Five, which is really the premise of the club. And I'm going to be sharing with you how these Big Five can make changes over time, including on these issues when you have moments come up where you're not sure how you're going to work out the time to get it done, let alone get it done well. So these are the Big Five things. First of all, you have an opportunity to look at what is unnecessary during your teaching day and pull back on that. We're going to be looking at our main thing. How do we pick the main thing from our list making system and drive towards it with all of our might, like we're heading for the beach on spring break? Point the car south and don't turn around. We're going to really stay focused on our main thing. And an approach to that is using the third step, which is batching and finding our tasks and finding systems inside of our tasks to help us stay focused while we are working towards our main thing for the day. This is a big one. Step or number four for me on the Big Five is about relaxing your standards, and about, for me, it was about bringing down these levels of perfection that I was always trying to attain. I wanted to be perfect at all of my tasks to the point where it became crushing. So how can we lower our standards while still keep student engagement and student learning really high? And the fifth and final thing we'll talk about is scheduling and boundaries and designing our day to feel good during our school teaching and to feel great when we get home to focus on our personal lives. Over time, I was taking lots of little steps based on the mindset and strategies I was learning in the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek program. And every time I made a change or I implemented a mindset, tried a new strategy, I felt better, but more importantly, student learning went up every single time. Whether it was they had better behavior, whether they were working harder at their writing, goodness knows it's really difficult to get middle schoolers to write and to write well, whether it was their interactions with their peers, maintaining a positive classroom environment. Every time I put in a new step, my students' education got better. So, with that confidence, I'm like, okay, I know it's possible. I know it's possible. How am I going to drive through this these 10 hours of professional development that I need to do and still stay focused on my kids? Looking at number one from the big five, there's a wonderful quote in the materials that talks about when you say yes to unnecessary things and yes to over, extreme personal standards, you're having to say no to something else in your day. When you say no to unnecessary work, however, you free yourself up to say yes to something big, something important. So thinking, okay, I'm going to have to really buckle down on my unnecessaries. I'd already gotten rid of my tendency to fix student lockers and this desire that I had all the time to jump into every conversation that I would see happening in the halls with my coworkers because I love spending time with them. I've already cut back on those, but during time where our seasons are exceptionally busy, that's where this step number one, removing the unnecessary, becomes even more important. And with dedication, you could probably even carve out upwards of 45 minutes during your school day to focus on your main thing. And when we look at our main thing, for me right now, it's like, how can I arrange? First of all, I had to arrange my work week to be able to pull off 10 hours of professional development learning. When I typed in priority list, because I thought it would be cute to have a list, an image of a list, Unsplash gave me the first image they gave me was of a sandy path through this beautiful green grass that was billowing in the wind. And I could just imagine the beach at the other end of this path. What a perfect image for our main thing, right? When we have a main thing, it's the number one thing that you want or need to accomplish in a day to feel confident. And the materials in the club do a great job of helping you use your a list system and a priority system to help you get to that main thing. Then when you start to build these habits that you have at school, you have opportunities then to practice them at your home life. And maybe your main thing for the weekend is getting to the beach. Maybe your main thing for the weekend is cleaning up the house before you have company. So by using this strategy from the big five, you get to arrange your day where you start with the biggest thing. And then when that is done, you have this clarity, this freedom in your heart to then approach the other important things in your day as they come your way. The third step in the big five is all about batching and putting together common tasks. And I've spoken at conferences and I spent a lot of time with colleagues telling them how batching essentially saved my career. I used to spend so much time at work. I was upwards of 60 hours a week when I was first working. Nobody told me I had to do that. It was not a requirement of the job. I just didn't know how to do things differently and still get out the door at a reasonable time. In the resources that I put together for our summit this week, one of the things in there is all about batching with in relation to grading. So if grading is one of those areas that is still giving you trouble, where it's like no matter what you do, you feel like you can't just get through it. Check out my resources because there's a great scale and categories in there to help you quickly work through a large pile of work, as well as strategies that you can use to give feedback while students are working, which we're going to talk about here in a second on our next step. Because while batching may have saved my career, the secret sauce comes in here on step 4 when it became really important for me as an educator to relax my own standards that I had set for myself. Many of them were arbitrary. It had to do with what time I got to work and how much I had to get done before I let myself leave at the end of the day. It had to do with what my worksheets looked like, what my classroom looked like. I had so many standards that I didn't realize were not vital to being a high quality educator. One of the things that my resource talks about, like I said, was with the grading. It's also centered around feedback and giving important feedback. As a perfectionist, I wanted to give lots of feedback to every student on all of their work that they turned in. When I watched one of my kids look at his test, notice that he got a B minus, he led the score. I had writing all over the front and back, and he put it in a trash can right in front of me. And I got thinking, I just did so much work and you didn't learn from it at all. He did not learn from it at all. Really great student, perfectly capable, but he didn't look at the feedback. So, how was he possibly going to learn? That in combination with spending some time having students work on some self-analysis during the classroom, even grading their own work, I got to realize that all this time I spent perfecting my written feedback was not having an impact on their learning, but spending time engaging with the kids, having them analyze their own work. Now we were looking at some pretty extreme growth. Written feedback is not the only kind of feedback that there is to give. You can give verbal feedback. You can have groups give each other feedback. There's all different ways that you can communicate about student achievement that can be oftentimes more effective than written feedback on the students' papers. But again, this was difficult because I had to work on that perfection side of it. I was worried about people noticing. And the only thing that people did notice was how much more engaged the students were in the learning process. And because they were engaged, their achievement went up, their ability to work together went up, their behavior management just wasn't even really an issue. So there's all kinds of things involved. By relaxing my own standards for myself, I was able to engage with the kids in a way that gave them a high quality learning opportunity that I never could have done if I was so worried about doing everything right. Okay, I knew I didn't want to get a sub, but my mind was so stuck on, if I don't get a sub, I won't get it done. And I'm not giving up another weekend. It brought me to think about the time I had had a guest teacher, like 2 weeks, I think, before this meeting had happened. And I was really sick and I got super sick in the night. So I only had about 30 minutes in the morning to put together my plans and get them to the office for the guest teacher for that day. It was really basic stuff, just some tasks for the kids to do, as well as some free time. I let them play board games. And I got thinking, well, if I could have a guest teacher come in, the kids are pretty much independent. All they're doing is, all the substitute needed to do really was manage their behavior during that time. What if I was my own guest teacher? What if I did this for myself? Because when I got back, yeah, they didn't learn a whole lot that day, but everything was fine. I was able to remove some stuff from our unit that was not super important to the objective and the assessment. And we were okay. And it worked out okay. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what if I am my own substitute? I figured it out. So I put together for the next couple of weeks, I got looking at my lessons like, okay, what can I do here where the kids are occupied and well behaved and I can get things done? So I decided to use a film. I put together some close notes. I love how AI can generate different, fill in the blank or close notes to be able to use with a resource. And then the next day, we corrected it and then had group discussions on the topic. It was still related to our unit. I was able to buy 4 hours of time to get things done during that day, 4 hours towards this 10. If I were to do it again the next week, I'm looking at, being able to check the box on that main thing I had for those couple of weeks, which is getting my professional development done. In the resources that I talked about, you'll see different opportunities that you might want to use in your own classroom to be your own sub. You can introduce and you can conclude your tasks in ways that are still connected to the unit without losing quite as much precious learning time as you would by bringing in a guest teacher who might not be as experienced in your subject area. So take a look at those and see where those options are. However, in order for this to work, the 40-hour teacher work week was vital to my success with my Be Your Own Sub days, because I was able to create an environment for my students that, it was this self-running classroom where the kids had jobs, we had routines. And so when they walk in the door, they know what to expect. So when I drop a little curveball on them that ends up having them be independent, I can comfortably say, I am here, but I'm not available. So make sure that you ask 3 before me. Or for some kids, why don't you ask 8 before me? So I would tell them I'm here, but I'm not really available. I have some pretty important things I need to get done, but don't worry, we're going to be talking about this together tomorrow. And by having this management in my room, I was able to set myself up for success for during a busy season, whether it's professional development hours, working on a program. It could be during exam week if you have high schoolers. It could be during parent-teacher conferences. If you're coaching in a sport, it could be, when you've got a lot of games back to back. whatever your busy season is, here's a great opportunity for you to get things off of your to-do list while still maintaining an engaged and high quality learning environment, because that's what we all want, right? That's our number one goal, is having the kids learning always take precedence, but still managing our own needs and our own balance. Which leads me into our fifth point on the big five list. It's about maintaining a balanced work and life schedule. And then sticking to it. Like I was saying, 60 hours a week when I first started working was completely unmanageable. I thought it would just be for a short period of time, but it was well over a school year where a 50-hour week was fairly normal. 60-hour weeks were popping in. And there was one evening I was at home. I had about 20 minutes because I worked late yet again. I needed to get my kids fed and out the door to sports practice in about 20 minutes time. So I'm slam banging the cupboards, and my daughter walks in, and she's got her hair in pigtail braids, but it was all fluffy because she'd had, an epic day at second grade. And she says, "Mommy, I liked it better when you weren't working. You were happier." I had stayed home with my kids for about 10 years before I decided to go back to work. And when she told me that, it kind of broke my heart because I feel alive when I'm in front of my students, when I'm leading a group. I really love it. But I needed to be a good mother. I wanted to spend time with my husband. I wanted to spend time on my health. And what really helped me get a handle on all of this, like I told you, was the batch planning, but the batching with my planning and the batching with my grading, the different tasks. By putting that on a schedule, I was able to focus and systematize what I needed to get done. What is my priority and what is not my priority? It's either on the list or off the list. And by sticking to this balanced schedule, I felt great about what I accomplished, right? Check boxes. They make us really happy. And I left at the end of the day with the confidence, knowing that my students were well cared for while I was working, knowing that I had energy to spend time with my family when I got home, or whatever hobbies I wanted to do, paddleboarding, biking with my kids, skiing, whatever it might be. And I also knew that I was capable of spending time on things that were most important and still got home at the end of the day. So if you have your note paper with you, a lot of people are coming to the summit with something to write on. So if you don't have something to write on, maybe hurry up and grab a sticky note, because I have a few things I want you to write down to kind of think about during your day today, during our summit. The first thing I want you to write down is eliminate. Ruthlessly think about what can you take off of your daily tasks. What are you doing on a regular basis that don't need to be there to help the students learn? And get really sharp with it, because we have these busy seasons come into our lives, right? Whether it's professional development or whatever else is going on. I mean, Spirit Week, kids are crazy during Spirit Week. That's a really busy season for us. What can you eliminate all the time, and what can you eliminate during busy seasons? So write the word eliminate, and when you have a break today, revisit that and write some things down. What could you reduce? So that's the second word I want you to write down. Reduce. What can you bring down? For me, it was written feedback. What a massive difference it made. I became a better educator because I was more engaged with the students, but I was saving tons of time by reducing my written feedback and reducing the amount of time I was spending on my online gradebook with that system I told you about that's in my free resources. What else could you reduce? Maybe if you're spending a lot of time on bulletin boards or decorating or student displays, could you loop your students into that process? They might, they might not be as good at it as you are, but you'll reduce your workload, engage with the students more, which is an ultra bonus, and then they get to be a part of something. So by delegating, you're looping them in, saving yourself a ton of time. So what can you reduce? And then I'd like you to think about, for your third thing, is write down during the day. What kinds of things are you doing outside of your normal hours that you might be able to sprinkle in during the day during your units? So, what kinds of independent tasks come to mind? What can you do that will help you get more things off of your to-do list while kids are working, while kids are independently thinking. So if it's happening during your day, it's not happening during your evenings or weekends when you want to be spending time with your loved ones, your hobbies, or your other passions in life. And fourth and finally, I want you to write down 100%, 100%, because I want you to know that it is 100% possible to have a thriving career, to be an awesome educator, and to have a super joyful personal life. To loop back to that story I was telling you about when I was in the kitchen trying to frantically make that dinner, and my daughter was so sad. And what made me think of the story was just a couple weeks ago, she came up to me and said, "Mommy, I'm so glad that you have your job. You seem really happy, and I'm learning how to be happy too." And it just filled my heart with so much joy to know that I accomplished this goal, right? Is to be good at all the things that I enjoy about my life and to have, to be that role model for somebody who's so important to me. So thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope that you were able to learn and take away wonderful things from this summit offered by 40-Hour Teacher Workweek. And if you are not a member of the club, I highly recommend you join because it is absolutely life-changing. Again, my name is June, and thank you so much for being here today.
If you'd like to hear more content like this, click the link in the show notes to sign up for the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek online summit, and I'll send you the link to join us live for free. The elementary event is April 5th to 6th, and the secondary event is April 12th to 13th. You can choose which event to sign up for, and I'll only notify you about the event for your grade levels, but you'll still have access to all the sessions. So Friday night, which is April 5th and April 12th, I will be giving a keynote address to sort of kick things off in the evening. And then the sessions will run all day Saturday on the 6th for elementary teachers and the 13th for secondary teachers. If you can't attend live, or if the event is already passed by the time you listen to this episode, you can purchase forever access to all the sessions, both elementary and secondary. You'll get transcripts, note-taking guides, and all the presentation links in one document so that you can reference them really easily. Forever access is just $19, and the link is in the show notes. I really appreciate your financial support if you can do so, because it helps make this event free for those who can't. Go to 40htw.com to learn more. That's 40htw.com to learn more. Have a great week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.